You know, for the first event here, I had no idea what there was going to be. I thought it may be me and Phil and the 4 readers and maybe somebody's mom. You are all here, and Bill McNeil has some of his graduating high school class. I mean, did you plan this?
And his teacher.
Who knew? This is the very first inaugural reading series for Why There Are Words. And now more than ever, I think we need words. This was started in Sausalito, California by Peg Alford Purcell, and she had the vision to expand into a small press as well as the reading series. So she thought, well, if I had 4 other cities at least, then we could have a tour for the authors of her books. So I guess you could call this a stop on the Underground Railroad. This will be quarterly. It is also in Portland, Pittsburgh, New York, and LA. So consider yourselves part of a premiere here. And please turn off cell phones and banjos. When Peg asked me to coordinate this, she said, you can do whatever you'd like. And I thought, well, I mean, I'm a fiction writer, and I understand the concept of literary readings, but I really wanted, because this is Austin, we have to have some music, right? I mean, those are words too. So I think we're the only part of the 5-city tour series here that has music. So we will have Betty Sue, wonderful Austin songwriter, Bill McNeil, who I knew as a songwriter, and who knew that he could had a historical novel up his sleeve, Nan Cuba, and Bob Ayres. So I'll be introducing them. Bob will go first because of the situation with the bookstore and that they need to go home to. We're going to go straight through, and each reader will get 15 minutes. Okay? Cell phones off, did I say that? Okay, sometimes you have to say it twice. Okay, native of San Antonio, Bob Ayres has lived in Austin since 1985. That's almost the dawn of time for Austin, Texas. An alum of Warren Wilson Program for Writers, that's how I know Bob. He has published poems in numerous magazines, journals, and anthologies. His chapbook, Shadow of Wings, back there on the table, was published in 2012 by Main Street Rag Press. And his essay, The Devices and Desires of Our Own Hearts, Reflections on Blessing and Curse in the Psalms. That's an interesting slip. Psalms of Ascent appeared in Poets on the Psalms, published by Trinity University Press. Bob served on the founding board of Gemini Ink in San Antonio that Nan Cuba, another reader, has also been a big part of, and he served as a volunteer with Poetry at Round Top since its inception 15 years ago. When he's not writing or reading poems, he might be managing his family's ranch on Barton Creek or supporting the work of private land conservation as a member of the National Board of the Land Trust Alliance. Or he might be watching birds. When I decided on the theme of flight, I knew that Bob was going to be safe, you know, as the reader to have up here. So please welcome Bob Ayres.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Downpour. Had you come with me this morning, walking the pecan bottom along the creek, then the ridge upstream from where it bends, the sky scrubbed clean by last night's unpredicted storm, you would have seen the turkey hen threading her brood through patches of bluestem, blooming broomweed. And perched on the upended cedar stump, a painted bunting besotted with sunshine and song. So it is spring, and Allison was right. She knew that if she asked me to read something about flight, it would be birds, so you're in for birds. I was thinking, you know, the subject of flight, what goes up comes back down. So these two poems are really on the other end of the trajectory, and then I'll get to the taking flight with the poems in a few minutes. So here's another spring poem. It includes a storm, and I'm not going to say a lot about the poems as I read, but I will read it. Dick Sissel. On Grand Isle post-Katrina, which whacked the East End, and post-Rita, which pushed a wave over the West End, though you'd never know it now, debris hauled off who knows where, higher-end homes mostly put back together, only higher up, the Exxon plant humming again, its sempiternal flame burning bright, what with oil at 120 bucks a barrel. You can tell I wrote this a few years ago. Choppers like giant yellow dragonflies, shuttle crews supplies back and forth to pop-up rigs offshore. The little waves plashed harmlessly while laughing gulls, brown pelicans, and an accoutrement of terns purposefully fly all in the same direction, as though they're late, coming home from work. Sunsets a few tangerine clouds with a smudge of plum reflected in retreating waves, where a smattering of sanderlings and ruddy turnstones dodge aerosol cans and 5-gallon buckets washed ashore. Just above the tide line rests a dead gull, more trash, and water hyacinth from Bayou Teche flushed into the Gulf where salt killed it, plus a big fish head, a drum with bulging eyes. Then dinner with friends, fresh shrimp boiled with red potatoes and corn, cold beer, men's Final Four, basketball of a moon through the window crack so the surf wakes me up. Ghost crab tracks in the dunes, the requisite gulls looking a bit hungover, sun rising, not a cloud in sight, calm, porpoises along the shore, the rig still twinkling prettily in early light. Sometime between sunset the night before and the now of barn swallows dipping in and out of dunes, the whole beach has been combed like a sand trap as far as you can see both ways. The tractors rake, leaving ripples in the occasional whorl like a fingerprint where it turned around. The dead gull is gone, the dead hyacinth too, and the fish head. And the team at the chamber is glad to know they've got things under control, ready for tourists. And the Dick Sissel, perched on a stalk of dune grass, singing his snappy little song. He's made it back across the Gulf because it's springtime, and that's what Dick Sissels do. Driftwood logs roll in the surf with plastic bags like jellyfish waiting their turn to wash ashore, and more dead hyacinth. So now I'll read poems that have to do with taking flight, and the first two are from a sequence of poems that are all based on, have as their subject a pond on the western edge of the hill country, and in each of the poems there's certain of the features of the pond that are recurring through the poems, and then there's also a painter who's attempting to paint different scenes from the pond. And this is the first poem in the sequence. It's called 7 Egrets at Sunset. The pond, the pier, the bench at the end of the pier, the small boat upside down, the pole in the middle of the pond, familiar, fixed. This evening, the painter, still painting this scene, returns, adds the 7 egrets in breeding plumage, white tinged with yellow, red garish legs, one perched on the pole, one on the boat, 2 on the back of the bench, 3 on the pier, turned to statuary after a full day foraging the fields amid a motley herd of cross-bred cows. Startled by something in the shadows, they rise together, 7 smears of white circling the pond before they bank, abandoning pole, pier, bench, boat. So I'm going to read 3 more. This is a longer poem, and in all of these, the next 3 poems, they're a bit of a theme of resurrection, though maybe it's more reincarnation, something going on having to do with birds too, or well, we get to butterflies by the end. Hanging scroll, grass carp on silk. In his studio, he fingers a pocket full of carp scales, then cups his hands and shakes them to make the dry, tinkling sound of a wind chime strung with jingle shells. He dips his finger in the tiny pool of spit summoned to the tip of his tongue, lacquers a scale, held the sunlight. How they looked the morning he found them, dew-lit in grass, where days before he left the carp he found floating in the pond, belly up. The whiteness of it caught his eye as, stepping onto the pier, his stomach took the hint of something dead. Turtles, already at it, ducked and disappeared in the mossy deep beneath the rainbow sheen, a film coating the surface of the pond. The gigantic carp was mostly intact, except one hole oozing a mustardy juice, in and out of which swam scavenger beetles, little flying saucers, mechanical legs spinning madly. He poked the metal point of a stringer through the soft flesh behind its lip. The fish trailed along the boat like a ship towed to shore for salvage. To pull it out, he had to pry its mouth with a sotol stalk, jab it through one set of gills, bend to grab both sides of the stick, peer into empty sockets. He inched backwards over the embankment. For days, he watched the vultures come and go behind the dam as they carried the carp away in their bulging bellies. By the 3rd day, there were only scales, coins tossed in a macabre parade, and cartilage from the dorsal fin, and black feathers. That's when he gathered the scales, translucent, veined like the feathers. Now, using circular strokes, he paints a wispy apparition, fluid as a soaring vulture overhead. Rippled rows of translucent scales, metallic, silver pink, the luminous body flexing on taut silk, hoary cloud head, feathering tail, fins to rip a seam in a seamless sky. Great blue heron. The great blue heron strikes like a snake recoils, resumes the shape of the S in rest, shakes its shaggy head until the fish clamped in its bill lodges in its throat like the rat in rat snake. The S stretches to the L in slide as the bulge slips slowly out of sight, slick glide through the gullet. Then the H, heron, here, raises its wings and lifts into flight. M, for majesty, decorum, momentum, diminution. And this is the last poem, and it's called Scat. Not passion flower, pipe vine, or verbena, No nectar whatsoever for these butterflies perched on fresh coyote scat, dead middle of the road. They roll up their sleeves, all business and brisket. Aloft, they show their colors, silver jackrabbit fur with polka dots, pink as a baby cottontail's ear. Thank you.